let us know when it's good and right to exit, all right? But remember, always let the MC out first. Thank you for your understanding. All right, we will gather at the car park or across the road, and we'll take guidance from the team here at the Holiday Inn. Washrooms, just straight across from where registration, you'll find the washroom. And also, ladies and gentlemen, for our refreshments during morning and afternoon tea, just out here, the door to my right. We've got a door here in the front and one at the back, or if you choose to use the one that you walked in, just by registration, you're going to have to go across past the bar. We don't want you to go past the bar too early in the morning. Let's keep that for later in the evening. All right. Spirits are high, so we'll keep it that way throughout our program. A few formalities to get through with the official opening, and we hear from the respective partners of today's event, as well as our major sponsors, and of course, the Deputy Prime Minister of the country who is going to officiate, ladies and gentlemen, our opening ceremony. We thank you sincerely for your cooperation and your understanding during this time. We ask very kindly if you can just ensure that your mobile devices have been activated to silent or vibrate mode. We'll wait on others who are yet to arrive before we begin. Thank you for your attention. our chief guest this morning. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to firstly begin by acknowledging our spiritual and our religious leaders of this country and our landowners, past and present, who have allowed us this very opportunity to be able to host us all here today. Before we move to the next part of our formalities, I'm going to ask our guests of honor to please come forward to take their seats up on stage. How are you? Oh, you're in the middle, sir. Right in the middle.
No complicated question.
On behalf of the hosts, the University of the South Pacific School of Pacific Arts, Communications, and Education, the Pacific Islands News Association, and the Asia Pacific Media Network, a warm welcome to the 2024 Pacific International Media Conference. We're looking forward to 3 days, ladies and gentlemen, of exciting and fruitful discussions and deliberations on media research and media capacity building in the Pacific as a response to what appears to be a crisis situation financially and editorially. The conference committee, the chair, Associate Professor Shailendra Singh, Deputy Chair, Dr. Rosiana Langi, Associate Professor Baljit Singh, Ms. Monica Singh, Mr. Kaliga Senaviratne, and Mr. Rajendra Prasad, all from the University of the South Pacific, and Dr. Amit Sarwal, former from USP, have worked hard to put this event together. Also an integral part, ladies and gentlemen, of the organizing committee are Mr. Cora No, the Professor David Robbie, representing conference co-hosts, the Pacific Island News Association and the Asia Pacific Media Network. On behalf of the organizing committee, we extend a hearty welcome to our chief guest for the opening ceremony, Fiji's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Trade, Cooperatives, Small and Medium Enterprises and Communications, the Honorable Manoa Kamikamida. And also, ladies and gentlemen, our chief guest at the conference dinner and book launch, Papua New Guinea's Minister for Communications and Information Technology, the Honorable Timothy Masu. We're privileged to have a great lineup of powerful, international, award-winning speakers teaming up with Pacific regional counterparts to add richness to the discussions on Pacific media. A special welcome to 3-time Emmy Award-winning television news producer from the United States, Professor Emily Drew. A big round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen. Based at Davidson College, North Carolina, award-winning journalist and author, Professor Sherry-Ann George. Another round of applause. Originally from Singapore, now based in Hong Kong, the Baptist University in Hong Kong, and recently honored member of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Professor David Robbie, editor of the Asia Pacific Report and the founding editor of Pacific Journalism Review. A big round of applause, please. We're also honored to have among us the finalists in the 2017 Pulitzer Prize, Irene J. Liu, ladies and gentlemen. A big round of applause. the Singapore-based Regional Director for the International Fund for Public Interest Media, Asia and the Pacific, and a renowned investigative journalist from New Zealand, Indra Stewart. A big round of applause, please. Finalist of 2 Voyager Media Awards and the New Zealand Radio Award. We're also acknowledging our local keynote speaker, the Executive Director of the Fiji Women's Rights Movement, Nalini Singh. Can we give a big round of applause as well? A powerful and renowned advocate for gender equality and women's empowerment in Fiji and the Pacific. Our discussions will be enriched by the Pacific Editors Forum, which has 9 leading Pacific editors in the lineup. These speakers and others set the scene for some very interesting discussions in the coming days. At this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to also acknowledge the diplomatic corps, Your Excellencies. The Deputy Chief of Mission for the U.S. Embassy in Fiji, Kiribati, Nauru, Tonga, and Tuvalu, John Diggory. Yes, let's give him a round of applause. And the Australian Acting Deputy High Commissioner, His Excellency Andrew Shepherd, the U.S. Embassy and the Australian High Commission, who are the major sponsors, ladies and gentlemen, for this event. We also acknowledge the presence of the High Commissioner of India, His Excellency P.S. Karthikeyan, the Indonesian Ambassador, His Excellency Dupito D. Simamora, British High Commission Second Secretary Regional Affairs, Andrew Heseltine, and the Taiwan representative to Fiji, His Excellency Paul Chen, and Chinese ambassador who's also present with us this morning, His Excellency Zhou Zhen. Your support for media freedom and capacity building is greatly appreciated. The media industry in Fiji is a major USB journalism partner, and their presence is much appreciated, and we are very pleased to have our friends from the media who are present here today, our longtime friends, the Fiji Times, FBC, Fiji Sun, all our other friends who are here. I do apologize if I've missed you this morning. Communications Fiji Limited, thank you so much for being here. Welcome also members of the USB community, Dr. Matthew Hayward, the acting head of the School of Pacific Arts, Communications and Education, which is co-hosting the conference, and Professor Gurmeet Singh, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research and Innovation. I'd like to add that this conference would not be possible without some key sponsors, ladies and gentlemen, the U.S. Embassy in Fiji and the International Fund for Public Interest. Our appreciation as well to our co-sponsors, the Pacific Media Assistance Scheme, Fiji Women's Rights Movement, CIMAX New Zealand, the South Pacific Community, Pacific Women's Lead, USP's School of Pacific Arts and Communication and Education. As a bonus, would like to draw your attention to the side cultural media event of this conference, Connecting Diaspora, Pacific Prana exhibition by Tiffany Singh from New Zealand. That'll be held at the Oceania Arts Center at the University of the South Pacific from the 3rd of July to the 28th of August. We hope that you all can visit. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure recently you may have heard the former Fiji Times editor, Mr. Vijendra Kumar, who sadly passed away in Brisbane. The highly respected Mr. Kumar, or VK, as he was also known, was the first non-European and first Fiji-born editor of a daily English language newspaper in Fiji in 1976, which was an achievement in itself in a country that was then still steeped in colonial traditions and prejudices. He trained and mentored many Fijian journalists, including our conference convener, Dr. Shailendra Singh. It was his calm and steady leadership that steered the Fiji Times through the treacherous waters of 1987. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, I ask at this time if we can all please stand to observe a minute of silence for Mr. Kumar and for the many colleagues and friends we've lost in the industry over the years. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please be seated. And I now invite Ria Bhagwan to please come forward to Garland, our chief guest. Thank you so much, Ria. Our honorable chief guest, ladies and gentlemen. We start with our proceedings proper. I call upon the conference chair, Dr. Shailendra Singh, for the welcome and introduction. Please, let's make him feel welcome.
Okay, thank you, MC Michelle Singh, for an excellent introduction. Our chief guest, the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Trade, Cooperatives, Small Medium Enterprises, Communications, Honorable Manoa Kamikamida. Our other chief guest, Papua New Guinea Minister for Communications and Information Technology, Honorable Timothy Masiu. He's not here yet, but he's assured us he'll be joining us shortly. Our keynote speakers, Professors Emily Drew, Sherry and George, David Roby, and Ms. Nalini Singh. Our conference partners, Pacific Islands News Association President, Mr. Koranu. Representatives of our major sponsors, Mr. John Digori and Ms. Irene J. Liu. USP colleagues, Dr. Matthew Hayward and Professor Gurmeet Singh. Your Excellencies and distinguished delegates, it's such a pleasure to welcome you to this conference, and this is the first conference of its kind in Suva, Fiji in 20 years. Okay, and we've hosted events in between, but nothing of this magnitude since the 2004 Journalism Education Association of Australian Conference in Suva. And it's quite amazing to see two familiar faces, survivors from the 2004 conference. I believe Dr. David Roby was here, as well as Mr. Joe Yaya, who was a student and a conference manager at the time. Now, for this conference, we have 100 attendees from 11 countries, including 50 presenters. Among other things, this signifies a major boost in Pacific media research, and this is the main purpose of the conference, of course, for two major reasons. One is that the Pacific media sector, as we know, is grossly under-researched to begin with. And secondly, the sector is in the throes of profound changes and challenges, right? And those in the media sector feel it on a daily basis. So change and challenge are, of course, constants, right? They're happening all the time. But the difference this time is the pace and magnitude of it, right? It's unprecedented, unparalleled in our times. It's unlike anything we've seen or experienced before. Okay, we are dealing with climate change, for example, rapid advances in artificial intelligence, and if that wasn't enough, geopolitical upheavals and trickeries. Now, these blows, even as the media sector is ravaged financially by the digital disruption and COVID-19 pandemic effects. So our smallness and isolation as a region offer no protection whatsoever from these global trends and forces which pose unprecedented risks to our media sector. Now, I mean, those who are in the Pacific region, who know the Pacific media well, they will agree that the Pacific media have never had it easy, right? This is a tough region in which to be a journalist as well as a media organization. But at least they adapted to the environment, which are small markets, limited revenue, and high staff turnover. Okay, not to mention political pressure, of course. Now, the sector was surviving, at least it was surviving, and some companies were actually thriving, doing really well. Back then, the survivability of media organizations was really in question, if ever. Okay, today, however, the situation has changed dramatically. There's talk even of an existential crisis, thanks to what I call the twin evils of COVID-19 and digital disruption. So these are the major problems we are facing at the moment. Now, we hear that some prominent media organizations are hanging by a thread while others have closed. And I believe one of the major media or one of the major newspapers in the Pacific region that is no longer with us, at least in the print format, is the Tonga Times, right? Which is a real tragedy because the Tonga Times was at the forefront of the Tongan democracy movement in the 1980s and 1990s. And its demise, as I was saying, is a real tragedy. And the strange thing is, at least to me, is that its demise has gone largely unnoticed. Now, if you look at Fiji, the advertising sections of the two major dailies, the Fiji Times and the Fiji Sun, are a mere shadow of their former glory. And Fiji is one of the larger advertising markets in the region. So imagine what might be happening in the small island countries. Right now, what's happening is that the rivers of gold, as advertising is known or used to be known, is simply drying up rapidly. And what we are witnessing, perhaps we'll get a better understanding in the conference, is a media in crisis. Right? So this has wider implications for democracy and freedom of expression in the region. Right? In other words, it's not just about the media, but state and society as a whole. And the question that pops in mind is, are we sleepwalking through all this or not? And I think this question alone signifies or highlights the significance of this conference, which is to facilitate discussions and provide deeper insights into the problems in our search for solutions. Right? So there's no end to the questions. For example, is it all doom and gloom, or are there opportunities in the current maelstrom? And I think in this regard, the Pacific Editors Forum will be quite insightful as we hear from those on the front lines. Okay, so the Pacific Editors Forum, we ended up with 9 speakers, which I believe is unheard of, but this is the Pacific, of course, and we'll make it work somehow. Now, a highlight of the conference is the launch of the 30th edition of the Pacific Journalism Review. The PJR is by far the leading journal in Pacific media research, thanks largely to the tireless efforts of founding editor David Roby. We call him the man who'll never retire, right? And his trusty team, of which Dr. Philip Cass, I believe, is here, as well as Del Epsidi. And it's wonderful to see them both here with us today. Before I go, I also wish to express my personal condolences to the former Fiji Times editor, Mr. Vijendra Kumar, who was my boss in the late 1980s and early 1990s. And he was also a trainer and mentor to many of us in Fiji and the Pacific. And as I've said in my tributes, a giant of Pacific and Fiji media has fallen. And it was his astute leadership that saw the Fiji Times maneuver the treacherous 1987 coups and to live and to fight another day. And may his blessings be with the conference. And with that, thank you all and have a great meeting.
Thank you very much, Dr. Singh, for superbly setting the scene for the conference and what we can expect over the next few days. Next, I'd like to call upon the acting head of USP School of Pacific Arts, Communication and Education. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Matthew Hayward, please come forward to say a few words.
Honorable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Trade, Cooperatives, Small and Medium Enterprises and Communications, Honorable Mr. Manoa Kamikamida, Chief Guests, Your Excellencies, Deputy Chiefs of Mission, Regional and Executive Directors, Embassy personnel, Chairpersons of media councils and organizations, sponsors, journalists, academics, students, distinguished panelists and guests. On behalf of the School of Pacific Arts, Communication and Education, in collaboration with PINA and the Asia Pacific Media Network, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you on behalf of the school to the 2024 Pacific International Media Conference. Looking around the room, among many friends and colleagues, I see so many inspiring figures from across the Pacific media landscape, people whose work I read, people who I look up to and respect. And I'm genuinely humbled to stand before you this morning and welcome you to the conference. So humbled that I will in fact do what so many speakers promise to do and keep it brief. Surrounded by the leaders and future leaders of Pacific media freedom, I need hardly explain the importance of such an event as this. We have just heard about the existential threat to a free and open media in the Pacific. Enough to say that in coming together, you are providing a space for vital discussions that have not always been easy for us to hold in public. And it's fitting that the conference will be opened by the Honorable Deputy Prime Minister, under whose watch we have in Fiji seen the repeal of the Media Industry Development Act and the establishment of the Fiji Media Council. And I know we will hear tomorrow from the chairperson of that organization, Ms. Agatha Ferre. We have speakers here from across the Pacific and beyond. And as I welcome you all to the conference, I take the opportunity to express my admiration for those who have risked their personal security and safety to champion freedom of expression, to hold our public offices accountable to the public, and to provide a platform for grassroots leaders and marginalized groups, our women, our youths, our poor and disenfranchised, our LGBTQ community, our minorities, those who have historically been left out of the public account. With the University of Papua New Guinea, USP maintains the longest running journalism program in the Pacific Islands, and a special acknowledgement must again be made to Professor David Roby, member of the New Zealand Order of Merit, who headed both the UPNG journalism program and the USP journalism program, laying the foundation for the thriving program that today makes us all at USP so proud. It is here that we train our region's journalists, but also, with a thriving academic research culture, help contribute to the regional and international scholarship that informs those who will go on to train our region's journalists. And as we've just heard, we will be celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Pacific Journalism Review, a beacon of media excellence founded by Professor Roby and published today by the Asia Pacific Media Network in association with AUT and USP's journalism program. So, in short, we celebrate established legacies, but also lay the foundation for new legacies to come. My special thanks to the organizing committee, led by Dr. Shailendra Singh, Associate Professor of Journalism, with us in space. I know just how much work goes into an event such as this, so I hope that now you've put in the sleepless nights, you can relax and enjoy the conference, enjoy the fruits of your labor. Once again, I welcome you all on behalf of the school to the conference, and I look forward to meeting you and learning from you over the next few days. Vinaka.
Pinakwalevu, Dr. Hayward. Ladies and gentlemen, now I invite to introduce our chief guest. Please put your hands together for the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research and Innovation. I invite Professor Gurmeet Singh to come forward.
Good morning, Nisa Bulavanaka. Namaste. Chief guest, Deputy Prime Minister, Honorable Manwa Kami Kamada, and Honorable Timothy Missu. Keynote speakers, Professor Emily Drew, Cherin George, David Robbie, and Ms. Nalini Singh. Conference Chair, Dr. Shailendra Singh, Head of School, Matthew Howard, Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of University of the South Pacific, I am honored to extend our warmest greetings to all the delegates at the 2024 Pacific International Media Conference. This event reflects the university's commitment to fostering robust journalism in the Pacific, a cornerstone of democracy, good governance, and freedom of speech. USP has a long and proud history of supporting journalism education in the region. Our journalism program may be small, but it's the most successful in the Pacific region. It also stands as the leading producer of research on Pacific media. As a university, we strongly believe that journalism education and research are indispensable in the Pacific to foster critical thinkers and produce watchdogs who can uphold the principles of democracy and public accountability. Our research office funded comprehensive survey of 2006 Pacific Islands journalists in 9 countries that provided much needed update of Pacific journalists' demographic profiles, role conceptions, and ethical views. This study was conducted in 2021. This study produced an interesting paper by Dr. Shailendra Singh and Professor Fokker of Vienna University that addressed a major gap in global research on Pacific journalism. This had been a drawback in understanding Pacific media relative to changes in politics, economics, and technology compared to other regions in the world. This conference epitomizes our commitment to a media landscape that supports our shared values and aspirations. At the University of South Pacific, there are a number of ongoing research studies, and many of them are actually related to journalism. So we have some studies that are in the pipeline. We are also considering some proposals that are specifically related to this theme. So with these words, it's now my pleasure task to introduce our chief guest, the Honorable Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister for Trade, Cooperatives, Small and Medium Enterprises and Communications, Honorable Manwa Kami Kamada, who's proud Fijian with over 33 years of experience in the field of finance, aviation, banking, and manufacturing at a very senior executive level. A chartered accountant by profession, Honorable Kami Kamada is the first indigenous Fijian to become a member of the Australian Institute of Chartered Accountants and is presently a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants in Australia, New Zealand, and Fiji. Honorable Kami Kamada was the CFO and General Manager for the Lyndhurst Group of Companies, and has held senior roles with ANZ in Tonga, Fiji, and Papua New Guinea. Before joining ANZ, Honorable Kameda worked for Fiji's national carrier Fiji Airways for over 13 years as a general manager finance and general manager strategic planning. Honorable Kameda holds a Bachelor of Commerce from the University of New South Wales in Australia. He is married to Anne Steele and they have one daughter. Now, I kindly request Honorable Deputy Prime Minister to begin the lecture and share his valuable insights with us.
Before I begin, just allow me to say a few words in Fijian, and then I'll begin my formal remarks today. Wat turang sa kay wasa kanangon turang na Suva, kanto kay sa katsugana ni may isong sa katsugana no muni wano na namni indel ni soso. Na buki kimam keve kim sa wakaburu-buru tugani. Na katugani na kana soli tugana ngalal. May tugana viwase na didn't even know what turang sango. Just thought I'd acknowledge the landowners of the land on which we are presently sitting, I guess, or standing in my case, and acknowledge and the ancestors past and the present generations and future generations, and acknowledge their generosity for allowing us to be here today. Firstly, warm Bulabinaka and greetings to you all. And I noticed my brother, the Honorable Minister from Papua New Guinea, the Minister for Communications, Honorable Masiu has just arrived. And sir, on behalf of everybody here, we welcome you warmly to our shores. To the organizers of the conference here today, the diplomatic corps, the honorable speakers who are going to speak today, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. I have to say that it's a great honor for me to be here today to address you on the topic of the role of media freedom. I'm, of course, not here to give you some solutions to your challenges, but I'm keen to listen. We pride ourselves on a government that tries to listen, and hopefully we can try and chart a way forward in terms of media freedom and journalism in the Pacific and most importantly, Fiji. They say that journalism is the oxygen of democracy. And that could no truer be the case than in the case of Fiji. One of the proudest moments in my life, I think, in my short political career, was actually the repeal or the disposal of the media decree, or MIDA. I say that because it probably was the first signal to the world that your government, the new government, was going to be very serious in its pursuit of media freedom in Fiji. I thought I've decided to digress a bit from my notes and just share a few things with you today. And I'll share with you a story that brings home the reality that has been the reality in Fiji for the last 16 years. About, I think, 48 hours before the election, I got a call from my TV saying, we need to interview you, your party leader, who has become the prime minister. Other two deputy party leaders, Honorable Tambue at the time, and Dan Lobandan at my TV. This was done, it was an urgent interview leading up to the elections. And this was just before blackout, I think. So we were all in the various places. We all rushed to my TV. When we got there, the whole crew was sitting quietly. And so I was the last to arrive. And so I said, what's happening? And they said, oh, we got a call that said, if you have that interview, your license will be removed. That was the reality of Fiji. And so as we stand here today, we should be absolutely grateful for what has happened in our country. That we now have true democracy in our country. I was chuckling, as Honorable Biman said, there's a lot more noise in the country today, which is absolutely true. And, we are now able to share freely. We know exactly where people's positions are. It's no longer hid under ambiguity or diplomatic speak, which is wonderful. And hopefully, as a result, we can rebuild our country and continue to move forward as a nation together, given the major challenges that are in front of us. In keeping with my promise, we launched the Media Council a few, I think 6 months after, or 12 months after, I think. Again, continuing to push the narrative, or the real narrative, that Fiji was serious about self-regulation in the media, that it was really not the government's job to tell the media what to write or what to do. And then that was best left to the professionals. And that's where we are right now. And, hopefully as we evolve in this new journey, we will continue to work together in terms of what needs to be done in our country. I guess in speaking about the conference today, before I do, I just thought I'd share, I've been going around the world and just boasting about Fiji being a genuine democracy. And just recently, the United States of America has recognized Fiji's efforts in that regard. And we now have joined a special program called Democracy Delivers, which actually recognizes our concerted efforts in that direction. What I hope it will mean is that, particularly as we journey forward, we can use it as a vehicle to help, particularly the media industry in Fiji. And I know that all the members of the diplomatic corps are here, and I urge you all to support the media industry in every way you can, because as alluded to earlier, there are some stormy times ahead in terms of just the financial challenges, and there is also the need for continued capacity building in our industry, in the journalistic industry, going forward. And I would certainly government will play its part, and I know the diplomatic community will also play its part in trying to ensure that the media and journalism in Fiji continues to thrive. I see a lot of familiar faces in the room here today. Some who were at the brunt of the past government's vindictive, if you like, or authoritarian dispositions. And for those of you who know yourselves, I don't mention names. Welcome back to Fiji. And it's such a pleasure to see you here in relative freedom and enjoying life as usual, and continuing the good work that you need to do. I'd like to acknowledge the University of the South Pacific. It has always been, for those of us who are alumni of the university, It has always been a source of pride, the leadership role that the university has played over the years in politics, certainly in journalism, and the various other fields of endeavor that the university gets involved in, both in research and both in advocating for democratic freedom. One of the first discussions on whether we were going to have a new constitution was held in USP last year sometime. And that again just shows how the university continues to be forward thinking, continues to try and develop our various nations. And again, today, I just thought I'd acknowledge the university for bringing this conference together. It's the first of its kind for a while. And I certainly hope it won't be the last of its kind for a while. And that we can continue to reinvigorate the industry, the media industry, and reinvigorate journalism in our respective countries. And of course, that oxygen can feed into the democratic institutions and continue to ensure that we continue to grow our country and grow our Pacific nations as we move forward. And of course, finally, from the government's perspective, ultimately, government always asks for balance in reporting, and but that, I guess, is always left to the journalists to decide. And long that may remain, but from certainly the government's perspective, we advocate for media freedom and its importance. It has played its role under great strains for the last 16 years or 16 years. We are now in a position to really accelerate and strengthen the journalism and the media institutions in our country. And I hope that we will all work together, both government, private sector, and also the diplomatic community, to try and ensure that whilst like every industry, we always now and again have our own challenges, we will work together with them together and come out on the other side. I wish the speakers today all the very best as you talk about things that matter to the industry and also to you as individuals. Like I said, as a government, we will always be keen to understand what those issues are and how we can try and help assist in continuing to ensure that we have a sustainable and good, solid media and journalistic environment in our country. It is an honor again to be here today to come and say a few words to open this conference, and I wish you well. And may your deliberations be the platform for greater things in media freedom and journalistic freedom. And may God bless all of you. May God bless the Pacific Islands. May God bless Fiji. And thank you very much for your attention here today. Nawale.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, let's keep that applause going. Another big round of applause. We thank the Honorable Deputy Prime Minister for officiating over our ceremonies this morning, for your inspiring words to the regional media sector, sir. Your support for media rights is encouraging for this conference. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now here from our representative of our major sponsor, the U.S. Embassy in Fiji, Kiribati, Nauru, Tonga, and Tuvalu, to address us. We welcome Mr. John Deggery, the Deputy Chief of Mission.
Thank you. Deputy Prime Minister, Honorable Manua Kamikami, the Conference Chair, Dr. Shailendra Singh, other honorable guests on the dais with me, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor Gurmeet Singh, University of the South Pacific leadership and staff, and most importantly, respected academics and journalists gathered here today. Bula Vinaka Namaskar, Assalamu alaikum, Noaiya. I'd like to thank the faculty and leadership of the University of the South Pacific for hosting this Pacific Media International Conference. Over the next 3 days, as we've heard, the academics, journalists, and civil society leaders gathered today will address some of the most salient issues impacting the practice of journalism in the region. I can think of no more pressing time to have these conversations than right now. Today, my country celebrates its Independence Day for the 248th time. Almost 250 years ago, a group of everyday folks, farmers, lawyers, shopkeepers, to name a few, got together to draft an argument for independence based on the belief that those who are governed should have a say in who governs them. Nearly 2.5 centuries later, that Declaration of Independence has influenced more than 120 democracies worldwide, including some countries here in the Pacific. That global impact is at once humbling and pride-instilling, and it's something we never want to take for granted. The Declaration of Independence was a potent exercise of freedom of speech that informed the First Amendment of our Constitution 13 years later, the amendment that enshrines freedom of the press in the United States. A free press has become an inextricable part of our democracy and democracies across the world, creating a free flow of accurate information and ideas that inform our publics. That information flow includes well-researched opinions, including dissenting ones, which are essential for transparent, responsive, and inclusive governance. While the work you do as journalists is crucial to upholding democracy, your freedom to do it is not a foregone conclusion. Indeed, journalists across the world face unprecedented danger just for doing their jobs. Authoritarian governments and non-state actors continue to use disinformation and propaganda to undermine social discourse and impede journalist efforts to inform the public, hold governments accountable, and bring truth to light. Governments that fear truthful reporting have even targeted individual journalists. According to the Committee to Protect Journalists, there were 320 journalists imprisoned worldwide last year alone. More journalists were killed in 2023 than in any year in recent memory. It's clear we as a global community have a long way to go to ensure the full safety for you as journalists to do your work. That's why every country must do more to protect journalists and support free and independent media that answers to the people, not to government agencies. The U.S. Embassy remains firm in our support of a free and independent press in Fiji and throughout the Blue Pacific. We believe journalists should be free to uncover and verify the truth. As a former spokesperson myself, I understand how important it is to have healthy dialogue with reporters to ensure transparency and explain my government's policies to the best of my ability. Don't get me wrong. At times I have disagreed, sometimes quite passionately, with my journalist friends. But at the end of the day, we were both equally free to do our jobs, even if we saw things differently. And the next day, we would move on to the next issue with the same respect for professional duties and boundaries that we had the day before. We see many countries across the Pacific advancing their own journeys toward more respect for the press and freedom to report on all types of issues, including uncomfortable and controversial ones. As an example, Fiji's spectacular rise in the annual Reporters Without Borders press freedom rankings this year from 89th to 44th is commendable and shows that we share this conviction. And Mr. Deputy Prime Minister, I think the story you told in your remarks underscore better than anything I could say in these remarks and a lot of what we'll discuss over the next couple of days, just what's at stake. So thank you for sharing that. For years, the US Embassy has worked hand in hand with the Fijian Media Association to open opportunities for media professionals. Last month, we sent a delegation of Fijian journalists to the 13th Festival of Pacific Arts and Culture in Honolulu, Hawaii. While there, they were able to interview high-level US government officials and enjoy American-style Pacific hospitality. We're also continuing to send journalists on reporting tours and programs to network with their US colleagues to exchange best practices and build professional skills. In turn, the Fijian Media Association has provided our visiting US government officials with invaluable insight on how we can better understand the intricacies of Fijian politics and society and champion our two countries' shared goals. In addition to our financial support of this conference, we are pleased to have facilitated the visit of Professor Emily Drew to serve as panelist and moderator throughout the conference. Professor Drew teaches at Davidson College in the United States, where she specializes in media, race, and social justice, bringing a wealth of knowledge and experience to the conversations you will have over the next few days. Professor Drew has dedicated her career to mentoring aspiring journalists and advocating for a more inclusive and just media landscape. Her contributions today will undoubtedly inspire and inform our collective efforts. As we embark on this conference, let us celebrate the critical role the media plays in shaping our societies. The challenges we face, as many have mentioned, are indeed significant, but so are the opportunities. By working together, sharing knowledge, and supporting each other, we can ensure that Pacific media organizations continue to thrive, bring truth to their publics, and support the region's democracies. To quote famed American journalist Walter Cronkite, "Freedom of the press is not just important to democracy, it is democracy." I am so grateful for the opportunity to speak with you today. I hope you enjoy the conference, have engaging discussions, and deepen your relationships with colleagues. And finally, to the journalists in the room, thank you. Thank you for the work that you do. I know it's not easy work, but it is imperative work. Thank you for the sacrifices and your dedication. I encourage you to continue to ask the tough questions, uncover the truth, and cut through the noise of dis and misinformation. You're making your families, your fellow citizens, and your countries proud. Vinaka Vakalevu.
Fyaxia, and thank you, Mr. John Deggery, for your remarks, and also the U.S. Embassy for supporting this important conference. Ladies and gentlemen, our final speaker for the opening ceremony, we now invite a representative from our second major sponsor, the International Fund for Public Interest Media. We are very, very happy to have her here today, seeing as she had to travel all the way from Singapore to join us at this conference. Ladies and gentlemen, she's a regional director, Asia and the Pacific. Please put your hands together for Irene J. Liu.
Good morning, everyone. Nisam Bulavnaka. Thank you, Dr. Singh, Dr. Hayward, and the organizers of the Pacific International Media Conference here at USP. And greetings to Deputy Prime Minister Kamikamita, my apologies, and Deputy Chief of Mission Deggery, Professor Cherian George, old friend from Hong Kong. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the International Fund for Public Interest Media, we are thrilled to be here as a sponsor of the 2024 Pacific International Media Conference. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with us, the International Fund was launched just a little more than a year ago at World Press Freedom Day. We are the first ever multilateral fund specifically created to support independent public interest media in the Global South. While the struggle for freedom of expression has existed since humans began telling each other stories around campfires, modern day journalism has faced significant challenges over the past few decades. As Dr. Singh so eloquently put, the advent of the internet upended the business model for journalism and the global COVID-19 pandemic accelerated the financial challenges facing traditional media. Now, I personally experienced this as a reporter. So I started as a fresh graduate from journalism school in 2007, right before the global financial meltdown. And the first job that I ever had was canceled a week before I was supposed to start because of budget cuts at a newspaper in Biloxi, Mississippi. Now, going through as a journalist, as a young journalist, I think that many of us have experienced the need to deliver information on multiple platforms. As a journalist myself in New York, covering shockingly corrupt politicians, I was writing for the newspaper. I wrote for a political blog. I was doing TV, not a face for television, let's be clear, and also doing radio. And social media. So it was one of those things that you just had to adapt. And I think many journalists now understand the sort of multi-headed hydra that is trying to get information to the people who need it the most. Moving into Asia and the Pacific, I was then an investigative reporter in Hong Kong, and then I worked in Singapore for Google on the tech side of things. So seeing the challenges facing the information ecosystem from all sides and understanding how now the people need to decide, and they do decide how they seek information and where they seek it, which is on multiple platforms, competing with every other kind of media, entertainment, lifestyle. And now they're being, because of mis and disinformation, because of just the noise of information, this question of who to trust. These challenges are vast, and yet the need for trustworthy information has just never been greater. Independent journalism, at its best, is a bulwark against corruption. It gives people the information they need to make critical choices for themselves and their families. And it helps us to look beyond our own experience, to step in the shoes of another, creating understanding in this interconnected world. The International Fund wants to support this critical work in the Pacific. This morning, as I was watching the sunrise in this absolutely beautiful place, I was reflecting how the Pacific sits at the center of so many global currents, climate change, geopolitical tensions between global powers, and yet the need for local journalism has never been more important. Covering people's lives and helping them to have the information to make the decisions they need to serve and help protect their families. And that's why we're here. Here at the Pacific International Media Conference, the International Fund will announce that we're launching a grant program here in the Pacific, specifically for Pacific media. Now, our grant program will be focused on economic resilience. So really trying to provide resources to help support organizations to not only survive this current upheaval in the business model of journalism, but to thrive into the future and to be able to leverage and take advantage of the many technologies and resources that are now out there to help deliver information to people in the way that they want it. Now, I was reminded at a panel that I attended a few months ago by a journalist from Kenya who said that money doesn't equal wisdom. Now, the International Fund, we want to provide support through grants, through money, but we don't claim to have all the wisdom. And so that's why we're here today at this conference and over the weekend. We want to listen. I'm really looking forward to all the panels discussing the challenges and the opportunities for the Pacific media. And we're here to listen. I personally intend to put on my reporter's hat again and to take lots of notes and to hopefully hear from all of you. We'll be doing a session tomorrow to learn more about what you all think are the needs and the opportunities here. So please do come up to me, chat me up, and give me that unfiltered feedback, because we really are here with a lot of humility. We want to be partners with all of you in helping to provide a more sustainable and robust economic and information ecosystem to journalism here in the Pacific. So thank you all so much, and look forward to chatting later on. Thank you.
Winakabakalevu, Irene Liu, thank you so much also for sharing and extending that invitation for partnerships. And I'm sure you're going to hear a lot from the individuals in the room with regards to that. Ladies and gentlemen, that marks the, the conclusion of our formalities in this room. However, our opening ceremony ends after the group photo. All right, so that's coming up in just a moment. I ask that we all please give a big round of applause to all our speakers. They've really just set the platform of what we can expect over, the next few days with regards to the discussions that's coming. And we hope they will continue to engage like they have with us. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, as I kindly requested during our housekeeping, I'm going to ask all of you to please, the exit is to your left, my right, all right? And I'm going to ask our tables here, our partners and members of the Diplomatic Corps, if you can please just remain seated for a few minutes. I'm going to invite everyone else to move to Monica and the team or by the pool who are going to just prepare everything for our group photo. And as soon as we're ready there, I'm going to then invite them to join you shortly. Please, ladies and gentlemen, if we can move out, please make note. Right after the group photo, we have refreshments for morning tea before we return. Thank you so much for your attention.